Nice. All right, so this is being recorded. Let me share this with you here. Okay. So this is the a presentation sample of, if you can lay them out, take a picture of them like this, and post that in the Blackboard discussion for this assignment, along with your 8 drawings. But the presentation of them, the presentation of these finished versions that are done in paper, the presentation of these is more important than the drawings. As long as the drawings are clear, it's fine. All right. Okay. Does anyone have a question about formatting pictures? Like once you take a picture, if it's on your device, I guess either on your phone before you save it to something like maybe like I take photos with my phone, and sometimes I'll do like a airdrop them to my desktop computer. But I can edit them before I do that, so then it's sort of like I'll trim the excess around the edges. Okay. If you want, I can do a demonstration of that. If you don't need it, then we can move on to other stuff. If you don't have questions about this first assignment, then I would like to maybe do some drawings for the second one.
No questions to this one.
Okay, thank you, Claudia. Okay. All right. Well, your second. Go back up to the assignments. Just a moment. Here's the document. Sorry, I should have. There it is. Okay. Share this with you. Sorry, that took a second. Okay, so here's my screen. All right, so shape and form. So what we're going to do with this one, here in the assignment section for the, here, shape and form in assignments, here is a folder, this one. There's the document there, and then here I have some samples of some finished assignments of what this looks like. So what I want you to do, you're going to start with shape compositions, and you're trying to create the appearance of 3 dimensions and depth in some way. These are also cut paper for the shading, and so you're going to build up the shading really carefully and deliberately. And it is slow. It can be tedious, but I had a years ago, I had a former student return to do critiques with a design class. And one of the students asked him about the fact that the assignments that they were doing are tedious and time consuming. And he thought that was kind of funny because he said, that's what I do all the time. And this man was working as a designer and project manager for a commercial interior design and architecture firm in Chicago. And he said that that's the nature of the business of designing things, is that you're coming up with new solutions and things take time, and you have, sometimes it takes a while to get to a good solution, or you have to try something, it doesn't work, and then you have to go back and do it again. And nobody likes to go back and do things over and over and over again, but if it's not right, you have to. And often we're trying to create unique, really like more and more unique solutions to problems. And so you see, like with this one, the appearance of light and shadow is light on this edge up here, then it transitions gradually to shadow right there. So this one, you can see the overlapping of this ribbon and the appearance of shading on it. This one is a little bit more, I guess, well, this student used two different kinds of mark making, and this, I don't even know what this is. This is some sort of blob stuck in a tree or something. This is very interesting. You don't have to take it to this degree where the little tiny, you see the student decided to go buy 3 different hole punches to punch out, different sizes of circles from paper. And she got some pretty interesting results, but she was doing this like stippling with a marker to create some of the shading in her drawings. And she decided she wanted exactly what she drew, and so she just did this. You do not have to go out and buy circle cutters, hole punches, any kind of like specialized tools for this. You can use scissors and a knife, and I recommend that you use.
I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
So for this one, we don't have to stick to one shape. It's going to
No.
be multiple, like kind of like objects,
Yes. Yep.
and it can be with a marker. It has to be cut. Okay.
Yes. Yep. So you can create. You can create depth. Now these are all like close up of form. And you can see this, like, you can see elements of perspective and volume in all of them. And by volume, I mean solid, solid object. And like this one, you can see that there's a little bit of space and form because of the way this like blobby form overlaps what looks kind of like a branch or a tree. So that gives it a sense of dimension and depth. And this one too. So I'll talk about different elements of perspective where you have like how do you create the appearance of dimension. Okay, so these are examples for you. And here I might have to edit this. Realize I didn't edit this for the in-person, or for the fact that this is all online. So there may be some language that needs to be updated. But I want you again to make, so this is the composition is going to be 8 by 8 inches square. And so your initial drawings are going to be 4 by 4 inches square. And it'll be very similar to the process of the first assignment, where you're going to make these drawings in pencil, then marker. I'm going to change this down here. You're not going to have to, you don't really have access to you might not have access to a photocopier or scanning and printing. Okay. Yeah, I'll adjust that. So initially you're going to make the 4 by 4s. I think I'll just keep it where you make 3 of them larger at 8 by 8. Just draw them out. And when you're drawing these, the initial 4 by 4 drawings might not have all the details, but they need to be something that is understood. Drawing in the context of design is a communication tool. And drawing is very important because it allows you to get what's in your head out on paper into the world where you can show it to somebody. And if you try to describe something that's visual to another person using only words, it's really easy for that person to either misunderstand you or just not understand you. And so being able to get some facsimile of what's in your head out on paper, that allows you to communicate. And it's never going to be exactly what's in your head. That's, I remember this, it's kind of like a myth in drawing or just in art and design in general. And I think this myth is created by people who don't do it. That there's this, like you have this picture in your head of something that you're trying to draw, and you try to draw it and it doesn't look right. And it can be really, difficult and frustrating. But the image that you create in your head isn't made of anything. It's, it's like it's this, something that you imagine. When you draw it, you're drawing it in pencil on paper, and those are two different materials that exist in the physical world. And you're trying to control them to create, to reflect what you see. If what you see seems more like it's in color, it's got, details that you don't even know how to draw, then you shouldn't be surprised if it's difficult to draw it. So what you have to be satisfied with is something that is enough like the image in your head that you can continue to work on it in whatever material, whether it's, you're working on it in pencil and paper with marker and colored pencil, or using some form of digital media. Okay, does that make sense? Have you ever had that experience where you try to draw something and just you can't do it?
Definitely.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Yep, it is. The thing that was important, it was really nice for me to learn when I was in college, is that is normal. Because I don't want anyone thinking that it's because you're not good enough. That's hard to do. And that's something that if you practice it, you will get better at it. But the image in your head it really can only exist in your head because it's not made of anything. You can imagine anything. You can imagine things that you cannot draw or paint or render in any other way. So you have to accept that what you make is going to be different. And that could be good because then you have what you make is a new thing. And really if art and design were just a matter of automatically and mechanically executing a drawing or some other image of what you imagine, it wouldn't be nearly as interesting. You're not just an automated drawing machine. Okay, I'll show you how to shade them today. We'll talk about drawing and shading them, and then we'll work on that again on Thursday. But I want you to get through your drawings fairly quickly. I will edit this, so I think I'm just going to stop looking at this. And I'm going to share the screen of my tablet. There you are. All right, so if you measure this out, let's see, that's 11. I'll do Ta-da. If you like keeping it organized, you can do it this way. Well, that's to fit them. Yes.
I was just thinking, does it have to be something like kind of like abstract, just like a shape and form, or can it just be actually, let's say, the shape of the bottle and then shading, so it actually kind of reminds of like, let's say, bottle or apple or something, some object that actually exists?
You can, yes, that's a good question. You can, if you want to try to make it realistic, you can, but there will be limits to how realistic you can make it look, considering the limitations.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, so this notebook is a little, yeah, it's a little small. This is like a, well, it's a little small to get 4 on one page, but that's okay. All right, so this is 4 by 4. There. Okay, so if thinking abstractly, if you have just like geometry is a really good place to return to for really a lot of kinds of imagery, and the geometry is something that was used by all earliest civilizations. If you look at early decorative arts or painting, there's always this period of time where geometric design is common, and there are a lot of common symbols because they're kind of easy to do. Like a spiral is kind of a logical thing to make. I don't know that I want to do a spiral here. But geometry is something that really it's neutral. You can turn it into a lot of things. It also lends itself to repetition and pattern. In the early part of the 20th century, especially like the modernists, the German modernists of the 1920s, they were part of a group that wanted to return to this, simpler, more like basic and abstract shape and symbol, because realism and like perspective and realism kind of got to where it was just kind of stifling creativity, where realism was considered to be the only thing that was legitimate. And if you look at contemporary art throughout the 20th century, you can see that there are a lot more ways to make images than just realistic. And in design, it's very useful because it allows you to simplify something so that you can communicate what you mean to communicate without needing every last detail of realism. Okay, so if I take the circle also gives me the curve. And, I can do this. So we have overlap. I don't have to overlap all of them, but if I change scale, I might create the impression of depth. So let's say I'm going to put this, I'll put the smaller one in front. I mean, you can have, So scale is the relative size of things in an image. Overlapping is an element of perspective or depth, where if there's one thing sitting in front of another one, then there must be space. Even if there's like two flat circular pieces of paper, there would have to be space there. So the brain knows this, and the brain of your viewer knows this. Okay, and here comes Elliot. Hi, little baby. Would you go over? Could you lie down over there? Come here, sweetheart. You're in the way. Which is funny and fun, but you have to be right here. Come on. Whoop. And now right there. The lamp. The lamp is warm, so this is an excellent spot for him. It's just very good. Oh, Elliot, come on, man. You're totally upstaging me right now. You are a lot more interesting. Here, little baby, you can lie down on this piece of paper. Right there. Here, that's yours. Thank you. Okay. No, I don't want you casting a shadow. Don't look at the light. You're casting too much of a shadow. Stop looking at the light bulb. Okay, that's not right. Do that. There we go. All right. So, does what I'm drawing here make sense in terms of like depth?
Yeah, so it's like layers.
Yes.
So
it's like layering this in space. Okay.
I see the lower one closer to your hand, but maybe it's because I don't have the right picture expanded, but the one by Elliot's head, the top one, I'm not really seeing the perspective there.
Okay. So far.
I mean, I'm not seeing the layering on the top one.
Okay, so do you see this between here and here? This one is in front of this one?
Yes, but the frame above that.
Yeah, this is
square.
That's demonstration. So that's not the picture.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so it's just the one below it.
Here. It's just in this 4x4 square.
Perfect. Yes, I definitely see it.
Good. All right. So if I really want to make sure that it's clear and that it's seen, I can do some more overlapping. Let's say I have we'll do like a smaller one back here. All right. So one of the rules of perspective, it's just something that's a fact of our vision, is that as objects appear to be closer to us, they appear to be larger. And as they're farther away, they appear to be smaller. And to my knowledge, things don't shrink when they move away from me. I can't, I assume that they just appear to be smaller as they recede. Okay, now if I have, let's say, like, let's try this up here. This is a demo for this circle here. If I have light coming this way, then I have, let's just clean up that edge. You see how I draw circles with a lot of lines until I get it right. So if I have this, when you kind of get it, you can look at a sphere with light on it. You can look at a picture of planets in space, the moon, and here, if this is just floating and it's got light on it, you might have this transition here, and darker. It would be darker in here. Usually there's a little bit of light that creeps around the back edge. Have you ever looked at the half moon, and if you look at it long enough, you start to see the whole thing?
Yes.
Yes, because there is a little bit of light that kind of gets around to the darker half of it. Okay. All right. So it can be helpful to work on shading in pencil because you can control it better. And I will want you to ink it, but this you can come up with some kind of a logical light source. It doesn't have to be, it just has to be more general, like the light is coming from this direction, the light's coming from this direction. It doesn't really matter to me which direction you choose. It matters more that it's consistent. If it's consistent, then I can have the light I know it's always like this bottom part is in shadow, the upper part is in light. Down here, it might be a little bit harder, but I'm going to leave a little bit of light on that edge. Down here, if I have to draw outside the border, I can, and then I can erase. Oops, erase that. Okay. There. So this is starting to create the appearance of depth. And really, I'm only using circles because it's simple. And if, when you're starting out, I recommend that you try something that is simple and that you can control without too much difficulty or with less difficulty. If you wanted to create the appearance of like of a real object that's circular or spherical, then you can adjust this to look, if you want to have it look like it's oranges, you can have this like thing where the stem should go, and you could try to create maybe some sort of like pebbly surface with it. And there doesn't really need to be any logic for why these oranges are flying through space, but that's you never know. There is a I guess it's a term in, boy, I guess I'm not sure if it's like either like no, I think it's used in a lot of fields like early childhood development. It's used in creative, studying creative work. The term is, I guess it's a phrase, divergent thinking. And divergent thinking is when you can come up with a lot of different solutions to a problem. Some of them even it's almost like it's the willingness to go to try out less likely, I guess solutions that are either less likely to succeed or just, something that there's no rule, there's nothing that says you can't, so why not? Like there's one, it's like I guess it's sort of like a test where you ask people, how many uses can you think of for a paperclip? And you might take a paperclip and look at it and go like, well, I guess you could use it as a paperclip. That's one. You might use it as like a lockpick. It might not be a great lockpick, but you can pull it out and try to stick it in the lock and open a lock. Maybe a fish hook or something like that. And according to people who use this, they say most people will come up with like between, and just off the top of their heads, they'll come up with like 10 or 20. And people who are good at divergent thinking will just keep trying different options and come up with, 100 or more. But the way you do that is you start asking questions like, does it have to be the same size? And the answer is no, it doesn't have to be the same size. No one said it has to stay this scale. It also doesn't have to be made of the same material of that, aluminum. And so you can start just wondering, okay, so can it be like a inflatable balloon that looks like a paperclip? Like, okay, why not? Could it be made of, hollow steel, and could it be a watercraft? Yes. And so divergent thinking, if you just start thinking of like, I thought of that here with this, I change these circles, I try to do something to make them look like it might be oranges. And then it starts to turn into a different kind of image. Like if this has like the object now has an identity, and that starts to create meaning. And that's a very valuable thing to be able to do in art and design, because the idea of like coming up with novel solutions is really very useful. It's like people who are paying for design or paying for artwork are paying for something that they can't do. So if you can come up with a solution to surprise them in a good way, then you should do it. And you should, you should really work on developing your ability to do that. I think anyone really can develop that ability to be better at divergent thinking. It's very useful in advanced physics, mathematics, design, really just about any field. I can't think of a field where divergent thinking would not be useful. It's not a guarantee of success, but people who come up with unique, really truly unique solutions and innovations are generally good at divergent thinking. Okay, so this light edge here, you don't necessarily want. I don't want contour lines, and if you're going to cut this out of paper, you don't want contour lines either. So what you're going to do, this needs to be shaded out here in some way so that the edge is created by contrast, not by a line. And contrast in this case with the shading with value, contrast is a difference. This is lighter, this is darker, and that difference shows up there on that edge. All right. So are you seeing my you're seeing my image? I can see my image starting to come to life. This is kind of fun. I find that even where drawing and design, illustration, even where it's difficult, it's usually still enjoyable. Sometimes it's just like you can't make something work and it's extremely irritating. But most of the time, even where it's difficult, it's kind of like it's fun to try to solve these visual problems. Okay.
Debbie,
Yes.
oh, sorry.
That's okay.
So if you were going to break it down into steps, I'm sorry I was late joining in.
It's okay.
Is would the sort of beginning part be where the upper near the spiral shape of the circle you first did? And so the first thing you're kind of doing is establishing a like an image, and then after that, with the layering, and then you're adding the contrast, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, that's a very good question and a good point to bring up. If if you like there, yeah, you can follow a process and get results. And so if we have this, what I did here with this, I drew a circle and just decided I'm going to work with a circle. I didn't know I was going to come up with this picture. And I did because I just there was a sort of like process I followed. So it doesn't have to be a shape. I mean, if you want it to be something, it doesn't have to be like a simple shape like this. If you wanted it to be realistic, like I mean, I would caution you if you wanted it to be like a forest of trees. The scale is going to be important. If you get onto really tiny detail of light and shadow, it might be hard to articulate form that way.
So generally we start with something flat in 2D, and we're supposed to, by shading, add 3D kind of like perspective to it.
Yes.
And plus detail. So let's say I look at my shoes or something,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna draw the shape of my shoe,
Yeah.
and that will be like a shape, and then just add shading with some sort of object, like little cutout of, like, I don't know, even little cutout circles, and just add shading so it kind of looks like 3D, so it does look like a shoe. Would that be also a good idea?
Yes.
Or
That is a
Okay.
perfectly good idea. Yes, I think if you can make it realistic, if you want to, I think that the realism is not necessary, and I think it. I know that in a class like this we have people with varying degrees of experience, and if you have more experience, I think it's probably easier for you to do something that's more realistic, like a shoe, because I think it just requires a little bit more control.
Because for me it just seemed easier to do something realistic, because then you don't really have to find well, it's probably less creative because you just recreate something that already exists, I guess. So it's less work.
But that's okay. For I don't have a preference. Really, part of what the problem solving element of this assignment is you're trying to find, like, you're going to make 8 drawings initially, and you're trying to find a way to solve the problem. And so some solutions can be simple, like this one, and others can be more complicated. And you'll sort of like find like a way to create. You're ultimately going to you're going to present one at the end. And 8 smaller drawings allows you to explore the options so that you can arrive at one that is superior. So, and that's something that is important. Coming up with different versions of ideas is important, because people that hire you to work often want to see more than one option. It's pretty common, and it's pretty sort of expected to, coming up with 3 different options is kind of standard. And what if you have one? If you come up with one idea that's good, fine, but you don't really have any context, and if you're working on your own, that can be hard to know, like, how good is it? And if you present it to a client, or you present it to a work like your team, if you're working with a design team, if it's your responsibility to come up with this and there are problems with it, or just like your client just says, I don't like it, and they don't have to like it, they're paying you. They can say, I think this is terrible. Then you have to listen to that. And so then, like, what? Then what? You really need to be able to pull out something else and say, okay, how about this? That's very satisfying to the client. It's very dissatisfying if you assume that the first thing you thought of is going to be the best, and that they should pay you for that. I mean, I know when I hire people to do work, I want excellent work. I hire electricians to work on things. I pay for new windows in my home. I want that to be excellent. I don't really have a lot of patience to find out later, like, well, you guys did a bad job installing this. Right? Nobody wants that. So,
Well, that's what happened to me just recently with the bathroom.
oh yeah, yeah,
It came back like 8 times because
yeah.
there's always something, and it's really, really sad.
Well, yeah, that's a really it's a with you like if you hire people, and this is something for the interior design students, which is you should be aware of this. Clear communication is important. Finding good contractors that you trust to work with you and for you, that's important. And then staying on top of them and making sure that when they're not doing something the way you want it done, or not the way you agreed upon, you need to be strong enough to go back and say, this is wrong, you need to do it. You need to do it again. Because that's can feel like it's confrontation, but you're paying someone. And my experience is that with some people I have hired, if you're not watching them the entire time, they will do whatever they feel like doing, and their primary concern is getting out of there as fast as possible. Okay. Now, all right, so let's see what else. Let's talk a little bit about depth, perspective. You can apply linear perspective to this. I think we talked a little bit about that in the first assignment. But like this one, if you have, let's say, like 1 point perspective, and the vanishing point is there. This is the line here is a horizon line. The vanishing point assumes that this is a point of convergence for parallel edges that are receding from you. So this here might be like a wall. This could be I'm drawing this in such a way that I really can't see any of this. I can only see one side. I need to be able to see two sides. This one, I think I'm going to put an opening in it. I'll talk a little bit more about, I'm going to talk more about perspective on Thursday. But have any of you had any introduction to perspective other than in this class?
Yeah, I took some art classes in high school, and they were teaching us the basics of perspective and everything.
Okay, good. Ellie, come on. Oh, baby, come on, man. I want to cuddle you in just a minute. Just take it easy. All right. So, yes. Okay. I think that's the right. Well, I guess I kind of invented the thickness of that. So, And then here we can see through, so there's that. It's a little hard to see this without shading. So I think I'll put some shading down there. And if you've got surfaces that have just straight, they're like straight, so like this is just a straight vertical surface, the mark making can be changed to make it look like this is just a straight smooth surface. It's not rounded, so I don't have to have that transition, although this can help right here, this transition, to show that it's darker in here and gets lighter coming away from the corner. Again, I probably need some. Can you see the like this is a big opening right here? I think I might have to. I think I'm gonna like close that instead. That's better. So that seems to go out of there. I like that better. I want to see through it, but this is just a little too open there. So here, so the rule of like linear perspective is really this methodology where you can control the depiction of three-dimensional space that is accurate to the way our vision works. And so, like, if you have like a big wall receding from you, and you're looking straight ahead, this is like right in front of the viewer, or a presumed viewer of this picture. The top and the bottom of a really tall wall will seem to angle like down from above and then up from below to that vanishing point, and that tells me that this is it's like parallel. Like a wall seen at an oblique angle as it recedes from you, so it's receding from me. This one here, if it uses this same vanishing point, this one is going to be understood to be parallel to this, but it's in a different position, and so its angles are different. Okay, Elliot, come on, stop being so cute. Come on, I know it's hard to stop being cute. Okay, this being large takes up a lot of space, but so I put that opening in it so that so it doesn't just like crowd and clutter up the space too much. The opening, the bottom it's not drawn parallel to this, but it's drawn going to the same vanishing point. The top also. It's not quite parallel. If I use a straight edge from the vanishing point, top of the wall, there I can see my angle is a little different. Bottom of the wall, and like this height, the height of this, this is kind of arbitrary. I just made that. You're inventing this image, so I just kind of made it up. But if you use a straight edge, you might see a little bit more clearly. There's a slight difference to that angle. All right. Good. In this one, check my accuracy. That one's kind of far off. There. Make sure. Now, if I'm doing this, like, I want to try to keep it parallel to the side of the picture. That's really like my only guide. I don't have a... If you're just setting this up, here it can be easy for this like straight edge to angle a little bit, and you don't get straight verticals. You get sort of like diagonals that kind of don't make much sense. But here I'm going to do like that. Okay. Good. I think I would probably have something else over here. Now, this is a case where you don't have to just have these rectangular forms. I could have mysterious floating spheres. I could have one like right here that seems to be floating through that space. So you can create this mysterious land of abstract form. And then crop one of them there. Oh, nice. I just heard something. What are you guys doing? Okay. There. So this is depth and form using elements of linear perspective, really more like clearly with the vanishing point horizon line. Horizon line is eye level, presumed eye level in the picture. Okay. So those are some ideas for how you might approach images. And if you have, I'll do one more, like, I guess, Claudia, I would encourage you to create realistic images, but the realistic image would still have to be symbolic, or sort of like, there are details that you probably won't be able to capture in this.
Yeah, more probably like a resemblance of something
Yes.
that actually.
Yep. Now, if you look at like art for graphic design, you'll see that anything realistic is simplified. And there's a lesson that is sort of like an exercise in cartooning and illustration that I came across, and I've done this at times with design students, where you have to figure out a way to draw something quickly in order to communicate what it is without having to put in all the details. And the exercise is that if I tell you draw a car from memory in 5 minutes, and you think, okay, draw a car from memory in 5 minutes. And then after you finish that drawing, and at the beginning you're like thinking like, okay, like what is it? You draw the shape of a car, and then like, you've got to draw, like if you draw it at a diagonal, you draw like headlights, the wheel well, the doors, the windows, like where is everything? And this can be kind of comical that like you've like realize like I'm not really sure like how to draw the windows, or like you kind of vaguely remember like where things are. And then you draw that 5-minute drawing, and then you draw another one, same car, 4 minutes, and then you draw another one for 3. Then you draw another one 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds, 10 seconds. Then you start again, but the first drawing is 10 seconds, then 30 seconds, then 1 minute, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. Usually what happens is that on the way back up in terms of time, around 2 minutes you're finished. And at first 5 minutes seems like it's like not nearly enough time. And by the end of that exercise, you would 5 minutes is way too long. 2, maybe 3 minutes. And what you realize is that you can summarize the appearance of a car quickly. And then you do another exercise, say like draw a dog, or draw a cat, or draw a house. And you have to sort of like combine symbol and realism at the same time to create this like something that's realistic enough but abbreviated so that you can communicate it and get it done quickly. If you look at graphic design, even the illustration, excuse me, you'll see how simplified things are. And yet you still understand what you're looking at. Okay, that is enough. All right, so on Thursday, I'm gonna stop sharing that. On Thursday, we'll do more of this. So if you would look at drawings. Sorry, a lot of talking. My throat's kind of getting a little raspy. Any questions? All right, if you have questions about submitting the work for the first assignment, let me know. Tonight I'm doing meetings with interior design portfolio students, and I'll be teaching drawing this afternoon online for the Evanston Art Center. So I'm not available all the time, but I will. I can check to see how you guys are doing with your submissions of this first assignment. Okay. Enjoy the rest of the day.